Hello, teacher. I hope you are doing very well. Today I will represent my warehouse management system for Python final project. This system offers a user-friendly interface to manage inventory, suppliers, and orders. It's also simplify the warehouse management process and provide a seamless experience for user. Also, the program uses object-oriented programming concept as requested to organize the data and operations. Now let's start with the code explanation. At the first class called item to represent the product in the warehouse. It has attributes such as item ID, name, quantity, and suppliers. The init method is a constructor that initializes the attributes of the item object. The str method returns a single representation of item object. The order class represents an order for a specific time and quantity. The int method initializes item and quantity attributes of object. The order class represents an order for a specific item and quantity. The int method initializes the item and quantity attributes of an order object. The processing method subtracts the order quantity from the available quantity of the item. And the str method returns a string representation of the order object. The supplier class represents a supplier for the warehouse. It has attributes such as supplier ID, name, contact info, and list of product. The added product methods adds a product to supply list of products and sets the supplier attributes of the product. The remove product methods remove a product from the supplier's list of product and update the supplier's attributes of the product. Warehouse class represents the main warehouse object. It has attributes such as item, orders, supplies, and the file name of the inventory and supplier's date. The load inventory method reads the inventory data from the inventory file. It's open the file in read mode and reads the lines. Each line represents an item and the data is split into individual attributes such as item ID, name, quantity, and supply ID. An item object is created with the preset data and the corresponding supply is found using found supply method and added it to the supply product list. If the supply is not found, an item object is created with the preset data and corresponding supply is found using a found supplier method and added it to the supplier product list. If the supplier is not found, the item supplier attribute is set to none. The item is then appointed to the item list. Save data method saves the current inventory data to the inventory file. If it's open the file in write mode and iterates over each item in the items list. For each item, it writes a line to the file with the item's attributes separated by commas. If the item has a supplier, the supplier ID is included in the line. Then file closed. Load supplier method reads the supplier's data from the supplier's file. It's open the file in read mode and reads the lines. Each line represents a supplier and the data is split into individual attributes such as a supplier ID, name and contact info. A supplier object created with the preset data and pointed to the suppliers list. Save supplier method saves the current suppliers data to the suppliers file. It opens the file in write mode and iterates over each supplier in the suppliers list. For each suppliers, its write aligned to the file with the supplier's attributes separated by commas. Then the file closed. The view inventory method displays the current inventory in a formatted table-like structure. It prints a header row with a column labels. It then iterates over each item in the items list and print the item's attributes in a formatted row. If the item has suppliers, the supplier name is displayed, over which an empty string is shown. Finally, it's print a spatter line. The view supplier method displays the current supplier in a formatted table-like structure. It's printed a header row with a column labels. Then it's iterated over each supplier in the suppliers list and prints the supplier's attributes in a formatted row. The processing order method processes the order for a specific item and quantity. It's use found item method to search for the item with the given ID. If the item method is found, it's check if the available quantity is sufficient for the order. If there is enough quantity, a new order object is created. The order is processed by subtracting the quantity from the item's quantity, and the order is added to the orders list. Added item method adds a new item to inventory. It generates a new unique ID based on the current number of items in the inventory. It uses the find supplier method to find the suppliers with the given supply ID. It's create a new item object with the provided attributes, including the item ID and supplier. The item is added to the items list, and if a supplier is found, the item is also added to the supplier product list. Editing item quantity method is allowed to editing quantity of an item. It uses the found item method to find the item with the given item ID. If the item is found, the quantity is updated with a new quantity provided, over which an error message displayed. Remove item methods. It's removed item from inventory. It uses the found item method to find the item with a given item ID. If the item is found, it's removed from the items list, and if the item is associated with a supplier, it's also removed from the supplier product list. And if the process is successful, a successful message is displayed. If the item is not found, an error message is displayed. The added supplier methods added a new supplier to the warehouse. It generates a new unique supply ID based on the current numbers of suppliers. It creates a new supplier object with the provided attributes, including the supplier ID. The suppliers is added to the suppliers list, and it's give a successful message. Edit supplier methods. It allows us to edit information of a supplier. It uses the found supplier method to find the supplier with the given supplier ID. If the supplier is found, its name and contact information are updated with the new values provided, over which an error message is displayed. Remove supplier method allows to remove supplier from warehouse. It uses found supplier method to find the supplier with the given supplier ID. If the supplier is found, it's deassociated all the product associated with the supplier by setting their supplier's attributes to noun. Then the supplier removed from the supplier list and a successful message is displayed. Also, if the supplier is not found, an error message will display. Associate supplier method. Associate a supplier with a specific product. It uses found item method to found the item with the given item ID, and the found supplier method to found the supplier with a given supply ID. If both the item and supplier are found, the supplier is associated with the item by updating the item supplier attribute and adding the item to the supplier's product list, over which an error message is displayed. The associate supplier product method uses for deassociate a supplier from a specific product. It uses the found item method to found the item with the given item ID. If the item is found, is check if the item is associated with any supplier. If it's associated with the item, is removed from the supplier product list and the associate is deassociated, over which error message will display. Found item method research for an item in the inventory based on the given item ID. It iterates over each item in the items list and check if the item ID matches. If a matches is found, the item object is returned. If no matches, it's returned a none. Found supplier method searches for a supplier in the warehouses based on the given supply ID. It iterates over each suppliers in the suppliers list and check if the supplier matches. If a match is found, the supplier object is returned. If no matches is found, it's returned none. The main function start with creating a warehouse object, initializing with the find name for the inventory and supply data. It then calls the load inventory and load suppliers method of the warehouse. The warehouse object is load the data from the specific. It's then called the load inventory and load supplies method of the warehouse object to load the data from the respective files. A while loop is started to display the menu options and interact with the user. The menu options are displayed using print statement. Then the user choose is checked against each menu options using an if, elif, and else structure. If the choose matches a menu option, the corresponding method of the warehouse object is called to perform the operation. For example, if the choose is 1, the view inventory method is called, which display the inventory details. If the choose is 2, the view suppliers method is called, which display the list of suppliers. If the choose is 3, the corresponding code for processing order is expected to be written. The code of the rest of the menu options follows a similar pattern. Finally, the main function is called when the script is run, ensuring the code inside the main function is executed. The name variable holds the name of the current model, and when it is main, it's included the script is being run directly and not imported as model. Now, when I execute the program and run it, I will get this menu. First I get to this messages. The inventory file is not found starting with an inventory, and supplies file is not found starting with an empty supplier list. So we have in this menu 12 chooses. The first is view inventory and view suppliers, process order, editing item and edit the supplier, edit item quantity and edit suppliers, and associate supplier with the product and deassociate supplier from product, and remove item, also remove supplier. So now let's start it with editing supplier. First I will edit supplier Apple. Then I will make this contact info. So now we get this message, supplier Apple edited successfully with ID 1. And if we make refresh for our files, we will get this file with the supplier information. So let's edit some items. We wanted to enter 4 and then edit the item name. It's iPhone phone 11 and the quantity, for example 7, and the supplier ID 1, because we have a 1 supplier. Then we get this message, item iPhone 11 added successfully with ID 1. If we check the if we added 1 to check inventory, we will get all details. Current inventory have with ID 1 and the name of product and quantity and supplier. Supplier is not given. So in this way we need to go to option 8 to associate supplier with a product and enter the supplier ID. It's 1 and the item ID is 1. So now the product iPhone added to supplier Apple, and if we check the inventory, we will see right now the product, the first product with ID 1 iPhone 11 have a quantity 7 with a supplier Apple. And if we check the if we choose the number 2 from the menu to view suppliers, we will see the suppliers Apple with contact info as given. So if we want to edit a quantity for the item, we need to choose 6 and enter the item ID 1 and enter a quantity like, for example, 17. Then the item with ID 1 quantity updated to 17. So if we check the inventory, we will see the iPhone with 17 quantity and with the supplier Apple. If wanted to deassociate supplier from the product, we just have to choose 9 and enter the supplier ID 1 and the item ID is 1. So if we are view or inventory, we will check that iPhone has not for none supplier. And if we wanted to remove item, we can give the 10 choose and enter the item ID. Then we get this message, the item ID removed successfully. And if we wanted to remove the supplier, we need to give 11 and edit the supplier ID. So the supplier removed successfully. And then we can enter 12 for exit from a project. And if we check the files, they too empty because we delete all the files. That's it, teacher. I hope you like my project and get a good mark for it and passing this class. See you soon, teacher, and I hope for you a good health and bye bye.